As if I'm attracting people from all over Tel Aviv, because it was heard for half Tel Aviv.
For loudspeakers.
Yeah, and on above the table that the tape was, there was a big text about Israeli. It was very naive then to do it, because it was an article that I took from a newspaper about some Israelis in Hebron who took some Arab and made him naked and hit him and all kinds of that. And it was a kind of an issue, and I want to bring it back. It was a novelty then.
The issue being the brutality, you mean? Is that a kind of brutality that you saw?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you say now, of course, it's perhaps...
it became a little banal or trivial.
A harsh reality, for sure. At the time, when you were making a statement like that, or being political, were you in despair at the time? Were you the angry young artist? Or were you were born in Tel Aviv in '36, you've been Israeli all your life. Are you fairly optimistic? Were you then? Let's just go back to during the 60s. 70s.
I don't know what to say. Maybe I should say that I'm more optimistic now, because as I see it, as harsher the things become, I think the solution is nearer, because things can't go anymore like that for a long time. So I don't know what kind of a solution it will take form, because it's very complicated, the situation. I don't make it as a simple thing to resolve it. But I think then to see the solution, maybe it was even more far away than now, which I expect things to move.
Okay, so now going back to this period of time again, where they said you're a group of artists who changed the face of Israeli art, is it because you were making these political statements? Because you were bringing ideas of conceptual and performance art?
Yes, because of that, because of the media. We were working to, and a lot of time I worked even with my students as part of the work, and it was a kind of, let's say, innovation for Israeli art scene or something.
And tell us about your transition from then sculptor and performance artist to painter. What, did you just wake up one day and say, enough of one thing, I'll try something new?
No, it was a kind of more kind of transition when I represented Israel in the Venice Biennale together with Micha Ullman, 1980. And there I made a very big environmental piece, but also started to paint on the walls some things, and it was a time of a very personal, harsh crisis for me. And when I came back to Israel, I was really in a bad...
in pain, it sounds like.
And I had to do very immediate things, not sit and thinking conceptually. I had to do something on paper, and I had to do it on the floor because of the liquids, and it was very immediate media to hold on and to express myself and see my situation.
You make it almost sound therapeutic in a sense.
It was.
It was.
It was. It was combined even with, at that time, as I started this phase, I saw a new psychoanalyst.
Ah, I see.
And it went together, and he really was a big help for me.
I want to read from a description of how you work from your catalog. It says, Gershuni works on all fours, maneuvering like an animal or a crawling infant. His head is barely higher than his stomach or his thighs. His hands retreat from the level of working human limbs to that of animal paws. And it goes on to say how you crouch over the paper, that your technique is based on pouring and staining, using the palm or edge of the hand with pressed thumb, fist scratching nails. This is not the usual picture we have of the paintist in the easel. How did the style...
It sounds very exotic, no?
It sounds wonderful. I'd love you to do it now. But I'm wondering, tell me about the first moment you decided. Now, you've explained to us how you made this transition to painting. What made you get down on all fours?
As I said, it was unconscious, the very natural way of doing it, because I'm using a lot of liquids, especially maybe something in my paintings is the use of glass paints. And I started to use glass paint because I found a certain red glass paint which really resembles in the most even naturalistic way blood. Yeah, as you can see in some of the paintings.
It's
So
very
I
striking.
used it through that, and then I've gone to other glass paints, and I use a lot of lacquers, which are all fluids, and so I had to do it horizontally. Yeah? And then, of course, for a big piece, you don't even have a table. So it's the most convenient way was to do it on the floor.
And to not use brushes?
Maybe it has to do even from my agricultural experience. I was a farmer for many years too. And
Okay.
maybe it's something to do with the soil. Maybe
Getting your
I don't
hands-
want to make it too romantic. Yeah.
Getting your hands into it.
Yeah.
Did you ever try the traditional brush and standing up at the easel sort of approach, or this,
No,
you got
I
into
don't.
this right away?
I don't use brushes. Maybe because it has to do. Maybe because I wasn't, as I told you, wasn't trained as a painter. So it's when I use brush, I say I use the other edge of it to scratch or to. Or nowadays I'm doing also ceramics, which I refer to as Jewish ceramics, and then I have to write it, and it's very small, so I learned to use the brush through writing.
Coming to it in reverse. It's interesting. I didn't realize that you were a farmer, so I need to ask you, how does a nice Jewish farmer make it into the art world in such a prominent?
My father was a farmer. He went, before coming to Israel at the 20s, he went to study agriculture in France, and he came and he was a farmer. And when I was 19 and I was in the army, he was crashed down by a car accident. And so I
you
was
got the
the older
family farm.
son, and I had my family to support, so I had to be a farmer.
And while you were doing your farming, were you always thinking of being an artist?
Yeah, after a few years, I saw that I need something else too. So I went to art school, and but maybe this sense of organic things, growing, feeling is maybe it's part from there. Cypress trees, as I have many in my paintings, they referred at 1881 a lot of time to Vincent, of course, and I was writing even personal letters to him, yes, as
This
a kind
is
of...
a Vincent van Gogh, right? At some point you even write, "I am Vincent" in these paintings. Now, I've read that critics have said that has to do with your struggle for identity. First of all, does that ring true for you in terms of the struggle for identity?
Yeah, most of the paintings in 1881 were referring to soldiers, and like "I am soldier," or "Hello soldier, how are you?" or "Why don't you come back?" or thing like that. And I said, and some of them were to do with Vincent, and I said that he was a good soldier. Yeah. Although I said that I'm better,
Well, he was
because
also crazy.
he's at 39, he left the battle, and I was doing it after 39 too.
You're still struggling.
Yeah.
But Vincent van Gogh is also seen as a disturbed man, really quite. Do you feel
Struggling for making the day, yes. And at that time I was, when I was referring to soldiers, of course I knew what I'm doing in Israel, referring to soldiers in many ways. But it was mainly about myself being a soldier to make the day.
What was the battle? If you're the soldier, if that's the level we're talking on, what's the battleground?
To come it over, to survive.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did.
and you still.
Yeah.
Was it a transition? I mean, do you still feel, in a sense, like you're in the trenches doing battle, or was that something that you passed through, both as an artist and personally?
It was for me many things combined. It was, first of all, it was out of as everything I write. For example, it comes first of all as a very personal thing, the mood of the day or even the hour that I was doing the paintings. And for example, they were referring, hello soldier, how are you? So maybe they meant basically, why don't you come into my bed? And then it could even turn to a more public things, like I wrote beautiful soldier and purposely not handsome soldier, because of this, what do you say, female...
male, female, masculine,
yeah.
feminine dichotomy.
And I think, I don't want to sound even pretentious, too much pretentious, but I think maybe I did something in Israel to bring a little bit down this kind of
male
macho feeling, yeah, by referring...
By bringing out the more feminine side of,
yeah.
of the concept of soldier.
Some of the soldiers then had even earrings in my paintings, and now a lot of Israeli youngsters wearing earrings.
The softer side. Was there a reaction to those paintings?
Yeah, they became very
controversial.
Kind of controversial in a way, but there are some like some idioms even. When I wrote Shalom Chayal, it was hard to translate it because Shalom in Hebrew is three meanings. Shalom is peace, but we say Shalom when we meet, but we say also Shalom when we part. And when I had to translate it into English, I had to choose between one of the meanings or to write the three of them. So I wrote Shalom Chayal, hello soldier. So there was even quotation about my work in the newspaper, Shalom Gershuni. Yeah, and it became some of the kind of slogans. So,
when you leave this theme of soldier behind, is it like giving up a friend? I mean, you just grow, you just evolve to other themes, and do you think you come back? Do you find yourself repeating themes that you'll come back to after years? I'm thinking, for instance, of cyclamens or soldiers.
Yeah, some of them are surprisingly repeating, and I can see the connection between some periods of the paintings that I wasn't conscious about.
But you see it in retrospect.
But this period of the soldier, mostly gone. I don't write any more things about soldier.
I'd like to talk about some of the other symbols that we see in your work. The Star of David, the question mark, the raven. You may, choose whichever symbols you care to, but it would be interesting, I think, to hear how you become conscious of these and how they evolve, in a sense, present themselves in your work.
For example, as you said before, I say always that in Israel we are in a special situation about art doing, because there is no real tradition, old tradition of many years of Israeli visual things, or in Judaism, or is
This is because of the old prescription,
so
the graven images notion?
I don't know, but we don't have our own, let's say, art like Chinese or South Americans, or and we are based on European art. So of course I'm referring, and my fathers and mothers from point of view of art are European masters. Of course Vincent, you spoke about the ravens, yes, and I could share it, for example, that I spoke before about cypress trees. Cypress trees is my childhood. All the farms and the groves in Israel are surrounded by cypress trees, and I was going through cypress orchards by night to close the water or something. And so I could easily identify with Vincent on this level too.
Okay.
Or one of course the most about my work that I took was Grunewald, the 15th century Grunewald, the most expressionistic painting in Europe, like the Isenheim altar in Colmar.
Now, which of your paintings would be most reminiscent of that style, of Grunewald?
All those things about the bloodish thing, because I could say, but of course it's getting complex because our relation, and of course European art, which is my tradition, is Christian art. Yes. All full, it's all about Christian. And then it comes back. Christianity comes from Judaism, and when I'm going to Europe, I can't refer to Europe as only a place of history of art. Mm-hmm. We have our own history of relations with Europe. So it all gets complex, I think.
So in some sense you're saying, so the Star of David then becomes a way of taking, in a sense, Christian art, making more Jewish images that might otherwise be secular.
For example, from the point of view of dealing with identity, yeah? Mm-hmm. So artistic history, Jewish history, European things together, and I think it's part of my trying to deal with Jewish identity in Israel or not in Israel, and by not ignoring, yes, and trying to remember, or trying to not to remember, to forget, or trying to put away this kind of our century Jewish experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another theme that is prominent, some even call it an obsession of yours, is with the father. The father and the binding of Isaac in particular. How do we take this on the level of your own father's presence in your work? Is this his influence?
It had to do with my own father too, and at a certain we were talking about analytical things, therapy. So at a certain period, I could do through my painting some kind of reconciliation with my own father.
Which painting do you look at and say?
Oh,
there
were even some paintings dedicated, you say, or to him.
Dedicated to your father.
Yeah, and but there was a period that I was writing about Isaac. Yeah, all kinds of things with the name of Isaac. Which also came, first of all, from my own experience, because it happened to be that my friend was Isaac. Mm-hmm. But, of course, I knew what when I write Isaac, it's not a regular name, yes? And it has to do with Abraham, thing of sacrifice, and then soldier, of course, the soldier became Isaac. Yeah.
Well, what was to you the story, the binding of Isaac? It's a reoccurring image and thought of yours, but what is it about the binding of Isaac that you're connecting with?
So from the more simple maybe level, it is of course Isaac as a victim, yeah. Isaac as a soldier, and I was very moved by reading a book about somebody who came afterwards, my friend, and he lost his son in one of the, and he was talking about the Isaac or the Akedah, what do you call it, sacrifice, what do you call it, Akedah, the sacrifice of Isaac. And that it's Akedah complex, that we are sending our sons to the battle in order to get rid of them, you know, so they can't compete with us. And this was a very shock for me to hear it from a father who lost his son in a battle. Yes?
Yeah.
And it impressed me much. And but of course, afterwards I could see another level of it by this dealing with problem of God. Yes. What kind of a God we have? Of course, one is reminded, of course, this Kierkegaard, fear and tremble. What's called in English about Abraham trial and believing in God and the need of God and the need of religious thought and non-religious man.
Okay. Yeah. You actually paint in lines of scripture in various paintings. In this room, for instance, there's righteousness goes before him is on the wall. What can you tell us about that piece?
Yes, for example, righteousness goes before him, or in the other piece it's written, I will translate it in a very free way, something like, "O Lord, how manifold are thy works, all of them wisely done." Yeah? And then I say that maybe the English people are saying afterwards, maybe.
Some doubt, some doubt.
So there's this kind of need for belief. If we, I think if we, of course, if we're trying to do art, it's an act of belief, yes, of a possibility, and then doubt, and of course, after 45, there are, for example, righteousness goes before him, or all kinds of other titles that I wrote, like there are all kinds of titles of the God, like the eternity and glory and all kinds. So I say that after 45, if he still wants his titles, I don't give it to him unless with certain medals, you know. So I used even this problematical swastika together with this kind of dealings.
Now, the swastika must be one of the more controversial things you have in your paintings. I would guess it must strikes really quite a response.
Yes, and it even went through a lot of what do you call it?
Changes.
Not changes. People didn't understand some of them or some of it.
You didn't understand why you would use it. Why do you use it?
Mainly because what I said now, that it's kind of for me to hold on this kind of question. Yeah, that's what I said, that if the God still wants his title, now after 45 it goes only with this kind of remindings. Okay. It's not a very easy thing to make these beliefs as if nothing happened.
In paintings that use these lines of scriptures, what comes first? The painting or the line, or does it happen simultaneously? I'm thinking, for instance, though your sins be like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Yeah. A beautiful painting.
So it's a good case, because I think it came out purely from my using of the white color, and it was so white and as bright as snow, as it says in the Bible. Yes, and maybe this reminded me also the using, of course, of the red together. So it reminded me, though your sins will be as scarlet, it will turn as white as snow. But it always comes, almost always it comes, at least for when I use it for the first time, it comes through the moments of the painting. Like I have another painterly idea, it comes, and sometimes it's amazing because things that I didn't have in mind for maybe 30 years, it didn't cross my mind.
Yeah.
And I was brought up in a religious school, so all of those texts must be in my bones from then. And
now they bubble up.
And after 30 years that it didn't cross my mind, such a sentence or something, it came out like that. And of course, we know the story from Proust.
We just have a short time left. Just a brief answer. Do you struggle as much as you ever did, or are you a little more at peace with yourself?
I think so. I might say so, that I'm in a more peace with myself, and I want to bring it out to other people too.
Okay, well, I get a peaceful feeling being in this room. Thank you very much, Moshe Gershoni, and thank you, and also thanks to the D. Saunders Gallery. Shalom.